You're listening to FFOP Radio.
Reach the
Hey everybody, and welcome to the show. My name is Dave, and this is the Review Universe. You probably can tell what we're going to be doing by the title. You've been here before. If you haven't, here's the thing. We're going to review a movie. It's more of a dissection than a review, probably. I didn't take any notes because I felt like when I go too heavy-handed, maybe it's less fun. So anyway, let me introduce you to my guest. Reintroduce you. Know him if you've heard this show before. PJ's back on the show. What up, man?
I've now become Poop J Extreme.
Extreme?
Extreme.
Is this in addition to man mode?
Yes.
My God. So what does this mean?
I have no idea. We're just going up a level here.
Oh, okay. So you just leveled up.
Yeah.
Like if you're a PJ Mon from the Poke world.
Yeah. Eventually I might become Supreme and so on and so forth.
Now see, Supreme I get because that's when you add sour cream.
Yeah.
And guacamole, but that's an extra charge.
Well, yeah, guacamole's always extra, no matter how highfalutin they give you. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Let's get back to it. And by back to it, I mean, let me introduce Krista. She's over there. I'm pointing to her.
He's pointing to me, and I'm distracted by the...
But this is just audio. Yeah, so full disclosure, too. I've got a Raspberry Pi playing the... You know when you'd play the Ninja Turtle arcade game in a nice pizza parlor?
Yeah.
So if nobody puts money in it, it's got all these awesome scrolling screens and cutscenes and stuff. It's so fun. So
he has it on while we're recording, and I keep...
It's for atmosphere.
It's totally
I keep getting
just
a glimpse of it in
distracting
my
you.
glasses. Yeah.
Anyway, guys and gals, what we're doing is we're reviewing fully Harry and the Hendersons, a classic from when I was a kid. So, wow. First of all, PJ, let's touch base here. I am holding up the DVD because I love old school media. We even watched it on a projector, like in a movie theater.
Oh, wow.
How did you find it? Like, did you find it digitally, I imagine?
Yeah, because in this household, I have 0 ways to play a DVD.
Okay, yeah.
So it's impossible for me to do the physical media anymore with my current layout.
Yeah, you've got a different space now, and we've blown up into this huge studio, so I've got tons of room to put a lot of corny crap.
Yeah.
But so I got the DVD is the moral of that story. Let me see what year. Are you familiar with what year this came out in? 1987.
Ooh, so it came out a year after I was born.
I was 4 when it came out.
I was nothing.
It was just an idea, a concept on the drawing board. I mean, with the potential exists, you're there. So this is from 1987. And here's another thing I want to bring up before we get into it, because it's prevalent throughout. It is rated PG. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. However, there is gun violence, and there is swearing, and there is
improper gun usage.
There's dealing with death.
I was like, there's death in the first sequence.
It's wild. It's just as I remember it, because, again, full disclosure, I've watched this a zillion times.
This was my first time.
Well, a little bit.
Yes, but blood is also not supposed to be allowed in PG. I don't think it's allowed in current PG.
Okay, yeah, but that is an insane point that you're bringing up that I want to dissect, but we have to get into it.
Okay.
So let's break it down a little bit with the cast first. So we have John Lithgow as the dad, right?
Yes.
We have, what's her name? Let me pull up the thing. What's her name? Yeah, Melinda Dillon as Nancy, the wife.
Nan.
And then we have Sarah, the daughter. I don't care about her real name. And Ernie, the son, don't care about his real name. I will just be calling them John Lithgow, Melinda. No, I'm going to call her Nancy because he calls her Nan all the time, so I'll probably do that. George!
I feel like that's something you would call your grandmother and not your wife.
Yes.
Nan, get in here!
My grandmother was Nana, and she was also called Nan.
Well, it was the 80s. It was a different time.
Well, they call
Plus,
her Nance.
This is Seattle.
With a C, like Nance.
Nance.
Nan
He
is just
sometimes
old.
does. Listen. Let's get into it. So, it takes place, basically shot POV, right? Where a camera is floating through the woods and we're hearing footsteps. And it's mildly confusing if this is going to be your first time, I imagine, because it's cutting from two different POVs.
I guess.
Yeah.
The only reason is I didn't remember that it kept doing that from my childhood viewings. And so I was like, wait, what? And I was
didn't
like, oh,
even
yeah.
notice it.
Maybe I'm just, I'm maybe more nitpicky.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. We got a POV shot, and then we hear John Lithgow's voice and Ernie.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. I got to point this out only because it was pointed out to me. Like, this is not how you hunt. They're out there camping and hunting. Spoiler alert. And if you're going to hunt, you have to be very quiet and you have to stay very still. I've never gone hunting. So the fact that not only are John Lithgow and his son Ernie, George and Ernie, walking through the forest, like breaking sticks, like hitting leaves, they're talking.
Breaking all the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, but okay, I kind of take that back because here's the thing. As they're walking, we're cutting from their POV and spoiler alert, Harry's POV. So they get back to camp and so John Lithgow goes, shh, quiet, Ernie. And this scene makes no sense to me. We look down from the POV again. We see Nance and Sarah, and they're, dicking around the campsite because they're camping. And John Lithgow jumps out of the woods screaming lunch at the top of his lungs after Sarah flips her shit from seeing just her dad hold up a rabbit. Here's the thing. He was like, hey, Ernie, shh. Here, it's going to be a surprise. And then he just shouts lunch.
Yeah.
and okay, so I'm like, what the fuck? That still gives me vertigo watching that to this day.
It's so random. It's so random because it just pops up like instantly.
Yeah.
And that is a big rabbit.
Yeah,
and it looks like a house rabbit.
Yeah, he holds up this huge rabbit, and Ernie goes, and I killed it. So that's the thing, PG, and we've got this kid. He's like, yeah, I totally shot that thing. He's got a bandolier of bullets, shit that you would never see today.
Yeah, no, the wild, wild west back then. The wild, wild
Yeah.
west.
Oh my god.
Well, they're like at the outskirts of Seattle.
Yeah, like you have to keep in context. It's the Pacific Northwest, and it's 1987.
Yeah.
Oh, and apparently there's like mountain lions and bears and all this crazy shit in the woods they're camping in.
Oh yeah, what a beautiful montage, right?
It was pretty.
So they come into camp and blah blah blah. George wants to cook up the bunny, and Nance is like, no, I gotta take this potted plant home. And
Yeah.
so, like, oh my god, it's like what a mind blowing journey of just exposition via like, don't mess with my shit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, we don't have time to eat the rabbit. We'll stuff the rabbit. Everybody get in the car. And they're driving around. And Ernie is like, being a little plot device, dicking around in the back of the station wagon. And like, with zero explanation beyond this, George turns around. And he's like, hey, Ernie, be careful. My drawings are back there. Shh. Ernie, my drawings are back there. Watch out. And then it's like, your mom's plants, potted plants they brought camping.
When we watched it on the projector the first time, I was looking at the screen. I looked at David. I'm like, why is she holding a potted plant at the campsite? Like, I get if you're going to take a plant and bring it home with you, but like, you're coming prepared with soil. And by the way, they had a full-sized grill at the campsite, but it was not in that station wagon when they left.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we run into some continuity errors because from that shot on high, it is an expansive campsite. Like, here's the thing. I don't believe that Nancy thought they would leave before lunch, because if you pay attention to that beautifully crafted camping scene, there's goddamn laundry on a line that's wet. Like, there's nothing put away. She's actively potting a plant.
Also,
like,
why would they be like, why would they be going out hunting if they know they're going to leave? Like, why would they even leave the campsite? Why wouldn't they be helping put everything away? It makes
just
no
one more
sense.
trip, honey. We're gonna see if Ernie can get something.
Like, they all were just playing this puppet show of bullshit where nobody obviously thinks they're getting away from there before lunch. But we need exposition because, we're watching a goddamn movie. Anyway, so yeah, obviously we've got to get in the car, yada, 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 driving home. And, we're building, our family dynamic where, well, Ernie does say one thing, though. So we get a little interplay between Ernie and Sarah, because Sarah goes, she calls Ernie a barbarian or
a butcher.
something, a butcher. And he goes, it was him or me. So, like, this nerdy kid with these huge, huge glasses, like that only your aunt wore in the 80s. This kid somehow found his way into a pair.
He reminds me of the kid from the Christmas Story.
Yeah, a little bit.
Ralphie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like a nerdy little, like he wouldn't be hunting if his dad didn't get him a gun kind of kid.
Yeah. And that's what we're setting up with this exposition on this car ride. Is like, I didn't, Nancy, I didn't bring my gun this time. And she's like, oh, whoa, but you brought Ernie's gun and you still shot a rabbit and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So, we're getting like, okay, this guy's into shooting things. Well, okay. So we, setting up for a little change of heart later, maybe.
Yeah.
And like out of nowhere, it's like a clear day and they're driving around and then just boom, fog.
Yeah.
They're getting into Seattle.
And not only, so they're out in like the Pacific. Oh my God, it's beautiful. Like the beautifully shot montage. We see bears and foxes and badgers and otters and like it's like as if this road trip was orchestrated by the Imagineers at Disney. Like this perfect cascade of animals.
And he's speeding. So Nance is like freaking out and he's like, I know the road like the back of my hand.
Yeah. And like, but here's the thing. It's so funny now seeing it as an adult, because as a child, I was not cognizant of the smoke and everything getting set up.
Mm-hmm.
But now as an adult, I'm like, that is incredibly blue smoke. Like it is super fake. And like, who would say no to sunglasses? Because Nancy, like, he's like, oh, the sun. Nancy's like, hey, you want your sunglasses? Like, no, I'm totally fine. Listen, I need to set up, plausible deniability if I hit something. But yeah.
Planning to hit things.
Yeah, he's like setting up, like every nail in this coffin is so intentional. It's not like it was accidentally placed there. And like it was all like a dangling thread. Everything they do expositively and proactively leads toward them basically mistakenly hitting Harry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what a crazy, and like how did you find that first impact? I want both of your opinions on that.
It's awkward, but like also looking back at the car after he gets hit, like the license plate comes off.
Right.
But the license plate doesn't come off at the first hit. I think it's the second hit, but it has no reason to come off. It's not like
exactly.
Like Harry flew off the front of the car.
Right. And if you look at the damage, it's all
the left-hand side.
It's all driver's side, like, and not even like all the way to the middle mark. It's like the first quarter of the vehicle, like the light, the grill a little bit, the bumper, all like totally fucked.
It's also, he just kind of like clipped him. And apparently Harry can just play dead and just lose a pulse and go cold.
That's what
just stop breathing.
What? Yeah. Okay. So that's the thing. I feel like as much as I love gags, 2 is an awful number to pull a gag. Give me this 3 times. Moral of the story is I just feel like we're wasting time with the second one.
Yeah.
So yeah, with the first impact, John goes out there, George goes out there, and big reveal. He lied. He brought his gun.
Yeah.
And now he's got to explain it to Nance, and he's like, Nancy, this is why I brought it. For protection.
Well, you didn't have to
I brought it
lie.
to kill the thing that I hit.
Right.
Yeah, listen, everything I did was for a reason, and this gun is here, so whatever.
Even though the son's gun would do just as much damage.
Yeah.
It's a gun.
It's
a
probably
rifle. A
but
rifle.
Here's what I probably was probably going through George's mind. What he bought Ernie was, I guarantee, a 22. And he was either rocking like a 308 or a 30-30.
Like a heavy-duty one?
He's a gun nut.
Mm-hmm.
So he would want that extra power. Anyway, moral of the story is he walks over, and here's the sort of running gag that starts at this nexus is the fact that Harry smells.
Yeah.
Harry smells only when it's convenient to the plot.
Yep.
Well, to the daughter, Harry just always smells. The daughter's the only one who points it out all the time.
Right. Yeah. There's animosity between Sarah and Harry. But for most of the time, if she's not there to point it out, to be like, ugh, like nobody calls attention to it, or like unless you're a nosy neighbor or whatever. I feel like that's just like this hilarious plot convenience where like, and it varies too. Because sometimes it'll be like, oh, and like they're like holding back vomit. And sometimes they're just like, P.U., what is that? Like there's something in the air. Like what?
Yeah, and we'll get to it way later. But way later at that dinner scene, the person not in the family has zero idea what's going on.
But there's justification, and we'll get to it. Anyway, where are we? Like nowhere?
Harry's hit. He's got the gun.
So yeah, okay. So yeah, they get the gun. Blah blah blah. He's poking at it. And he's like, I think it's a bear. And there's a little bit of funny dialogue between him and Nance, where she goes, "Is it a gorilla?" And John goes, "I don't think they get that big around here," like something to that effect.
Because there's tons of gorillas in that area, and apparently they do not get that big. Which also, like, what? Gorillas are massive.
It's a hilarious dad joke.
Well, and when he first hits Harry, everybody's silent, and he's like, "Oh, I thought I hit a person."
Yeah, I thought I hit a man.
And then he's like, "Is everybody okay?"
Yeah. So, but that's the thing. If like a bear stands up like that, it could be,
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So he's out there, he's poking around. He's like, it's definitely dead. It smells like hell. And he moves it, and then boom, reveal of Harry's hand. And like, I don't even know. I kind of know why they're playing out the reveal, even though Harry's goddamn face was on every poster.
Yeah.
Why are we playing coy with this Sasquatch?
Yeah.
It's my point. But it's for attention. So he goes, Nance! Everybody comes out, and like, first thing they think of is dollar signs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Typical Americans.
Yeah, it's so funny. He's like, George goes, oh my God, think of like what we could get like for science or for blah, 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 blah. Like, we've got to take it home. And, keep in mind, depending on, again, the stink is going to be tied to his weight, because his weight will fluctuate. He will either be a destroyer of things because he weighs as much as a forklift, or he can prance around light as a butterfly.
Yeah.
So they basically have this hilarious comedy situation where they're lifting him up onto the station wagon with a rope. Like,
they set up like a makeshift pulley out of nowhere.
Yeah. Like a branch. They pulled down a branch from a tree. God knows how they did that. And like, there's this awesome comedy moment where he's trying to work Harry's body. At this point in the movie, unnamed Sasquatch or Bigfoot.
Unnamed Sasquatch 1.
Yeah, of 8, which we can get into. So yeah, hilarious scene where like he does this like double take at the feet, and he's like, "Oh boy, what a smell!"
Yeah.
Because it's feet, and like that knocked the shit out of me when I was a kid, and still even got a chuckle out of me today. So here's the thing: we've got Harry on the top, covered in a tarp, feet hanging out the back. They're driving home. They're talking about what to do with this goddamn Bigfoot. And it's like, well, what if, and Nancy, she says, what if it was the only one?
What if we just made the whole race extinct? Well, if it was the only one, then there's nothing else you could do.
Yeah, if it was the last one, the species was doomed anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, it can't procreate by itself.
Yeah, like no matter how many times it tries, it'll just be leaving deposits in stumps.
Especially considering the daughter points out the fact that he's male.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we can...
Yeah.
I'd like, okay, whatever. Yeah. So, we're driving and having an exposition and yada, yada, yada. And this hilarious, like, okay, so Harry like slides forward and just starts screaming his ass off. So, and it goes on for like, what, 20, 30 seconds?
Yeah.
I feel like it is such a long, hilarious scene where must be 4 cuts from Harry to the family. They must each get 15 seconds of screen time. and the whole time, George has got his foot on the gas still. So finally, he's like, oh, and he shakes himself out of it a little bit, hits the brake, and Harry goes flying like a rag doll.
Yeah. Like, screw physics. This giant thing that just crushes everything it steps on just goes fucking flying.
Yeah, and it was tied down. Like as if he was just a giant stick of butter that's lighter than air. He just goes boop and flies through the air. Diddly-diddly-doo.
You would think a guy who hunts would know how to tie something down to his roof.
Right. Especially given how many trophies he has. We know, it's proven, man. Like, what the hell happened here?
Yeah.
But whatever. So, George gets to eat a little crow because Nancy goes, I thought you said it was dead. And he's like, hey, give me my gun, Ernie.
It's dead
Be careful,
now.
it's still loaded.
Yeah. Be careful. The gun's still loaded, and I'm going to point it at all of you
then
before I
he
get out of the car.
proceeds to like wield it around the inside of the car. Don't open the back, George. Pull it through your family and have the barrel travel across your son and your wife. 1987.
It's fine.
No seatbelts in this bitch. It's a classic. Anyway, so here we go again with this shtick. And if it were there a third time, I don't know, I'd probably feel better about it because then it would be a running gag.
Yeah.
But
One or 3.
Yeah, then we get... The only difference is now we've got this little comedy sequence of like Nancy rolling down the window every time she answers one of George's questions. And he's like, yes, it's dead. And like he goes and like feels for a pulse at the wrist and the neck. And he's like, yeah. He's like, and here he's got lots of evidence, and the last piece is confusing to me. So he says, it's not moving, it's not breathing, it's got no pulse, and it's cold as a popsicle. And here's the thing. We got confirmation Harry was alive. He was not but 45 seconds ago, screaming at the top of his lungs at a family who was returning his, in a chorus.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. He doesn't go into like rigor mortis and super cold like in 4
Yeah,
seconds.
so that's the thing. So now Harry has been hit by a car and then flung bodily from the top of a car. Put him back on. They get home and we cut to the villain of our piece.
Ooh.
So Jacques Lafleur is his character name, so I'm going to call him Jacques. But
You can call
if
him
you know
the
him as-
painter because his hat doesn't remind me of...
Oh, his
like-
little beret?
His beret doesn't remind me of like a military beret. It reminds me of a painter.
Mhm.
It was a little oversized, yeah. But yeah, so this is Poirot. So his real name is David Suchet, but I'm going to call it, we call him Jacques. So Jacques shows up and like, just to like nitpick his costume, or not nitpick, but pick it apart a little bit. So he wears like a big wool jacket over like a wool vest and then some other like button up. And then his pants, unremarkable, but he's wearing like 2 skinned wolves from knee to ankle.
Yeah, they looked like rugs. It looked like he
Yeah.
had tied 2 rugs to his legs with 3 pieces of rope each.
And
He's
his
trying
shoes.
to be a Sasquatch.
No, he was. I don't know what he was trying to do. Maybe like your feet and your ankles are maybe very susceptible to the cold. And he's running around out there. But another thing about his outfit is like his shoes are just like big puffy They almost remind me of Jim Carrey's shoes when he gets out of the Lambo in Dumb and Dumber. Right?
Yeah,
but with a little bit of a haircut. I always found his costume to be incredibly strange. Like as a child, I was like, what? But now as an adult, like having points of reference, he looks like a fur trapper from French Canada in the 1860s.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a bit crazy, so it does.
Yeah.
I guess that. It's
Right,
a
but like
par for his course.
why doesn't he? Here's the thing: if you're gonna, but he was French, so maybe he was French Canadian in like the mythology of what we're doing here. But like, give him something contemporary.
I mean, they're not far from the border, so.
That's true.
Why the fact that I want to know a little bit more about him and Don Amici's backstory, but I'll never get it.
We need a prequel.
Yeah.
I did a prequel between Jacques and Wallace. Anyway, we're not there yet. Jacques shows up and he is like on a Bigfoot hunt. And so he grabs a piece of Harry's, like a clump of Harry's hair, and he's sniffing it and he like licks it.
And then he smells it. You'd think you smell it first if you know what the thing smells like.
I always found this very compelling as a child, like the character actor of it all, because I knew it was a movie, but I was like, why are you as a human licking a patch of hair from a giant
licked
ape
it
that's
and spit the first time, and then licked it again and
licked it again? Didn't spit. He liked it the second time.
No, he didn't spit the second time.
Yeah,
And then he stuck it in a Ziploc in his hat.
yeah, it's crazy. I was like, I thought he was just gonna like tuck it into his hat. First time I saw this, I was like, why? But then he pulls out a plastic bag, and I was like, but you have so many layers. Where are your pockets?
Yeah.
He's a plastic bag under his beret. Jesus Christ. So many confusing character choices with this guy.
Well, so I was reading, and apparently his character was based off of a real like person.
Bigfoot hunter?
Yeah. And then so was the other guy that we'll get to was based off of like 4 different people.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Like,
So I wonder if that person like acted and dressed like that. And that
it seems like whoever did the Bigfoot lore, world building, did it real, quote unquote, real, according to crypto, aka fake research.
Yeah.
But all the opinions of whether cryptids are real aside, this is a great movie.
Is that where he finds the license plate too?
Yeah, he finds a license
that's where he
plate.
finds a license plate, which somehow fell off when Harry flew off the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only that, when he picks it up, it's as if it were hit in the center by a cannonball.
Right.
Well, it's bent backwards, if I'm not mistaken. So
it's
it looks
bent
like
inwards.
Was it bent inward?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's bent
it was
inward.
bent in. So it was made to give you the impression as if Harry's head hit dead center on the license plate. Because here's the weird thing. There's so many weird anachronistic attention to detail type shit here. Because we see that he just basically takes out the right quarter, but then when Jock picks up the license plate, it's as if, boom, head first into it. And when we cut to a close-up, it's got strands of Bigfoot hair in it. So they were paying attention to be like, yeah,
Put some hair there.
Put some hair. They made it look ultra realistic.
And make it look like that car should not be able to drive. Like if he hit it dead nuts in the middle of that car, I feel like the engine would have been fucked.
Harry is an oak tree as an ape.
His weight fluctuates by the minute.
Right. That's the thing. It fluctuates. It comes and goes with his stink. But that's the thing. In this setting, if he gets hit by a car, that's one of the instances he is an oak.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now, boom, the Hendersons get home. It's nighttime. They're like, all right, got to go to sleep. Think about this Bigfoot thing. We'll sleep on it. Think about it in the morning. So I guess George is having like a flash nightmare.
Does it
of, like,
show what
hitting
time
Harry.
he woke up?
Like
Yes.
5:30 in the morning.
5:38.
Okay. All right.
And I'm like, what? That's so like already close to when a dad gets up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still like pitch black
But
out.
he got real excited
Right. It's so
when
strange.
he woke up. Like he just woke up on Christmas morning and he wanted to run down to the garage.
It's so wild. It's another one of these scenes where like everything would be perfect if it were like 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
Yeah.
But
There's
he's like,
there's other people up in the house. His son just stares at him as he runs out the door. Like, what are you doing?
right. Yeah, like I, as a dad, like today, I wake up right around 5:30 or 6 o'clock. So the fact that I would like from a nightmare be like, wake up at around the same time I wake up normally.
And it's like it's a school and work day, so you know damn well those kids are getting up at that time.
Right. So whatever. He does get that look of Christmas joy on his face, and he's like, I'm gonna go look at Harry.
He takes a tape measure.
Yeah, because he's thinking of the feet. He grabs one of those I love this old flashlight. It's the silver with like the red cup on the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He grabs the tape measure. He's gonna go measure the feet. So he's running out because they have a nice detached garage. I love this house. They have a nice detached garage. So he's running across the yard in his bathrobe, and he looks in there, and then he's like about to go in the door, and then he does a double take, and he looks through. Harry, boom, gonzo. And here's the thing. So here is the timeline. It's drawer open, flashlight, tape. George, zoop to the garage. So what? 3-4 seconds travel?
Yeah.
Look in the window. Harry's gone. It is at that time that we hear some nonsense going on back at the house.
Yeah.
Roughly 8 seconds have elapsed since George got the
Well,
flashlight.
Harry is a literal ninja.
Not only that, like I'll forgive the stealth because whatever, Bigfoots are stealth, like the stealth bombers of the anthropoid world, right? I'll forgive that. But in that 8 seconds, he's been able to silently, granted, traverse the yard, but make it into the house and completely fucking destroy the kitchen.
Well, he was already drinking milk.
Yes.
And
Okay, yeah. So that's the thing. That's what I'm going to get at is like when we get back in, George is like, oh God, I've been away from the house for now a total of 10 seconds. Diddly. Kitchen a fucking wreck because George comes in and trips over something that was knocked over by Harry.
And how does nobody wake up?
Whatever, because he's silent as a ninja. So the flashlight, I love this sequence. The flashlight falls and it's rolling around. So we see this spinning shadow of John Lithgow and then this big, obviously Harry, because again, he's on the poster. What are we doing? Whoa. Here's Harry, right? And there he is, humongous. And not only is the kitchen a wreck, the refrigerator is on its side. All the food just boom, perfectly scattered. And he's just like, drinking milk out of the carton?
How did he know what milk was?
I was going to say, how does he even know what milk is?
Right? Of all the things he could have grabbed, no, he's just like,
he's
know what?
He's also adamantly against like harming other animals. So how does he know what milk is?
And not only that, like harming is one thing. Like what cow would he have access to up in the woods outside of Seattle?
Right. It would have made more sense if he was eating like a head of lettuce.
I guarantee that gave him diarrhea. Like that was his first dairy ever. So just imagine an 8 foot tall, 450 pound ape. Like
destroying their bathroom or
like
floor.
He would go into the woods. Like I'm sure when Harry has to shit, he probably just disappears into the woods for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Bigfoot shit in the woods with bears. So yeah, anyway, there he is. Boom. There he pow, everything. Pow, pow, pow. It's such a great shot. And now we've got this like little cat and mouse game where
everybody's yelling.
Well, first there's a little nonsense with him and between George and Harry, like the already signs of his intelligence where he's like blocking doors, but like not like it's, whatever. So then, Ernie is the first one to show up because John finally loses his top and he goes, help! And Ernie runs in and he goes, oh my God, you're not dead. And he's like, not yet, I'm not. And he's like, no, I was talking about him because Ernie is already locked in on this idea.
Yep.
And I identified with him 110% back in the day. Still do. And just because for his situation, obviously, like if you're put in the place of the dad, like let's say I'm in John Lithgow's shoes. Yeah, I'm freaking out. But if I run in and my dad, there he is, standing, still alive, not torn to bits. His genitals aren't ripped off, as is the primate way, I guess. I would also be super enthusiastic about the situation.
Well, and the fact that, I mean, I know Ernie and like a freaking out John Lithgow wouldn't realize it, but Harry was literally mimicking the same thing that John Lithgow was doing to him, like putting the hand on the chest, and he then did the same thing to George. Like it was he was just copying him.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Like when you obviously rework it in hindsight, you go, well, obviously,
right?
Harry, first thing he knows is just walking through the woods. Then he's awake on a thing that he's unaware of. He gets yelled at, lights out again.
I mean, he also knew the fact that he actually knew how to open the door, because he didn't break the door. He opened the door.
And the garage door, presumably, because if George was going to go in there and it wasn't broken.
And, well, he opened it and shut it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like he must have just been creepily sitting in the backyard for a while, and then when John Lithgow came out, he's like, "Now's a good time to go in the house."
Maybe he watched George open and shut the door and then learned how to do it.
Maybe you're right. See, okay, so that maybe fills a little plot hole, because my thought process was that Harry had gotten free from his bindings and slipped out behind the garage like seconds before George got there. But if you're going to paint a scenario where Harry got out and then like kicked around the place for anywhere between 1 and 5 hours.
Yeah, he probably ate some stuff and
like waiting around, just being like, well, or alternate scenario, he spent the first anywhere between 1 and 5 trapped in the garage, not wanting to break out, but trying to understand the doorknob.
Maybe. Yeah.
Interesting fan theories.
So then Nance comes down from bed, and she's freaking out, and George is like, "Get my rifle."
Yeah. He wants to shoot him immediately.
And she's like, "Do do 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 do," and then starts spraying air freshener instead of doing the thing that, like, if she.
Well, keep in mind it's PG, so we can't have like a bunch
somebody blowing its brains out.
Yeah,
can't have the rifle, can't get a knife, so air freshener is the next thing in line. We can't. Also, why are they keeping the air freshener on its side in a cabinet?
Yeah,
right. That's another weird thing. Is like, okay, so the setup is like the mom, Nancy. She's like rustling around. You think she's gonna get something. You're like, oh, what's happening? And it's Glade. I feel like that was like deliberate product placement. I haven't checked on it, but yeah, obviously it was. And again, Harry's intelligence, again, maybe is also tied to his weight and his stink, because it fluctuates wildly. Because now he's completely familiar with doors, stealth, milk,
people. He literally calms down the moment she does that.
Yeah, human behavior. But now he's just like, oh boy, that's a nice smell. Like, what? So whatever. They all sneak out.
Oh no, it was Sarah. Sarah blew up in his face and made him angry again.
Well, yeah, but as they all sneak out, but Sarah runs back to get, and like, number one, what sort of breaks this movie a little bit for me today is that like Sarah is like, that's my 15-year-old course, like a corsage she got. She was 15. Moral of the story, she looks 26.
She's
roughly,
probably like 16.
I was gonna say she's got to still be in high school.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
Maybe the actress playing her is 26.
Probably.
Which
That's what I'm
has to
saying.
still be in high school.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, obviously, we get her exact age, PJ, because she goes, that's my 15-year-old birth corsage. I've been saving it for 6 months, meaning she's 15 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But she looks, and also she probably is a lot younger than what I'm saying, but 80s hair is also not kind on.
Yeah, it's true.
On people, you always look a little older with 80s hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, whatever. Moral of the story is Harry is just like, oh, well, I'm going to eat this. And then, he spits it out, which is hilarious. And he like digs in his teeth a little bit. Like this mask, I feel like we haven't given this mask any not notification, but any attention yet?
Oh yeah.
Harry's mask is brilliant.
Yeah. It reminds me of a mix between Ron Perlman and John Travolta. His face. I don't know why, but even the second time, I'm like, yep.
Yeah, there are some similar features. But I just mean, like, as far as animatronics go, like, it's Rick Baker, and he gives Jim Henson a run for his money. Like, the amount of emotion he is able to replicate authentically on Harry's face, wild.
Yeah.
It's that part of the movie is like fantastic. All the movements with Harry are great.
Yeah. Flawless.
I read that it was his favorite, and he felt that it was his best.
For sure.
Character.
Oh my God. Like, and it's really not to divert from the conversation too much, but it's a very forgiving costume, because when you are going to put something together, you would, I imagine you'd pray to God it would be hairy as shit, because you wouldn't have to, like, you could really focus on the strength of the seams of the costume instead of like tying it all together. You just hide it under a shit ton of hair.
Yeah, and who knows what was under it, because they're like the guy that played him, the main guy that played him, Kevin, I can't remember his full name, Kevin something Hart. He was already 7'2".
Kevin Peter Hall,
and then they made him over 8 feet tall, costume and all, because John Lithgow was 6'4", and so they made him, 2 feet taller than him.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I would love to, like, there's a bunch of, on my DVD, since I got it, it has a bunch of behind the scenes crap that I've yet to watch, but I'm totally going to have to now about the costume. Anyway, back at it. Where the hell are we?
So he eats the corsage. Sarah literally just starts screaming at him in the mom scream. Like, you do not act like this in this house, even if you're an animal.
Like, as a child watching this, it gave me such anxiety pangs, because this idiot girl is screaming at this giant monster. And, the first couple of times you watch it, you fully expect her arms to just be ripped off.
Yeah. Just rip her in half.
But he just yells, which is, that's Harry.
And it blows her hair back, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah. So there's a lot of great, you have to watch this movie, because there's a bunch of physical comedy that is not going to be done justice by description.
Yeah.
So whatever. Yeah. They all go, whoa, and they run outside. So now they're just watching Harry through the windows as he traipses through the house, like dicking around and eating house plants, and also eating one of their goldfish.
Yeah.
Which, makes sense. Pacific Northwest, if he's not going to be a carnivore, he'd probably be somewhere between a pescatarian and a vegetarian.
I suppose so.
So I totally buy that. He won't eat mammals, but he'll eat fish, because there's tons of them, and they're weird enough and different enough that Harry would.
I mean, bears, he probably watches bears eat them.
Yeah, he doesn't pet a fish. Things he can pet, he won't eat.
Yeah.
Harry has standards.
So I have to ask, so Harry's walking around the house and he sees the deer on the wall. And so he's petting it and stuff like that, and he makes that look over to John Lithgow. Was he gonna fuck it?
No.
Because the way John Lithgow was like, uh-oh.
No.
Uh-oh.
Because John Lithgow realized, like, he cares for the deer, and he's going to realize that the deer is dead, and he's going to freak out.
Yeah, even though this is 1987, it's still a family movie. They're not implying sex between species. Like,
that was my first thought the first time we watched it.
Horrible that you would think that.
The fact that he goes upstairs and finds the minx in like record timing after looking.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Where was it?
Okay, so there's a bunch of weird stuff going on that we need to unpack. So George, as a hunter, has a deer on the wall, and Harry does this comedy gag where he reaches around the wall looking for the deer body and then punches through the wall looking for it. And he realizes, boom, dead, and he strongly suspects George. That was the look. He wasn't horny. That was a look of anger. Yeah. Anyway.
It's Bigfoot. You can get him confused.
I mean, not really. That was clear anger. Like, he was very angry at George. Not horny with a deer. George wanders upstairs, and he goes, step by step, just crushing him. Bam, 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 bam. George says, that's it. I've had enough. And meanwhile, we're cutting out a lot of the fact that the house is getting fucked up left, right, and center.
This is one of those moments where Harry is very heavy, not ninja-like.
Yeah. He's walking up the stairs. And here's the thing. I think what he's doing is his intelligence has returned with his weight, because that feels like very genuine payback for killing the deer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Except he breaks stairs later on too, when he's not trying to.
Right. I think that was an accident though.
Right.
Yeah, I think those were flimsier stairs, and I think maybe he fell because, he's a Bigfoot. He's gone up and down stairs once. I'll give it to him that he maybe tripped, because Ernie
he went up the stairs in the backyard without breaking them.
But there's like 3 or 4 in the backyard. Let's be real. And those are probably stone,
maybe,
or concrete. They're made to handle weight. They'll let you, that's the thing. If you're 450 pounds, wooden stairs are like toothpicks under you, but like concrete stairs or stone stairs, they're there for.
They're connected to a deck though, so I would imagine them to be wood, not concrete.
I mean, we're splitting hairs.
They may have had support on the back, like the stairs upstairs had.
Whatever. Moral of the story is he's light on those because he's outside. He's very heavy in the house. So George goes and gets a ladder, puts it on the outside of the house, grabs his gun, and he's obviously moving with intention to kill Harry. And Nancy goes, "George, what are you doing?" And he goes, "Don't worry about it." Obviously, Nancy, what do you fucking think is happening here? There's a big goddamn foot in your house, destroying it. Your husband is going up a ladder with a gun. Put 2 and 2 together.
Meanwhile, it's probably 6:30 in the morning now. Then the sun's still not up yet. It's still
the
dark
sun
as shit
miraculously comes up once they all go back inside.
Yeah.
Like
I don't think
almost
it's 6:30.
instantaneously.
That's the thing. We're moving in real time right now. Time does not speed up until Irene calls later, but we'll get to it. So this is a pivotal point in the movie.
Yep.
So Harry is moving around upstairs. He's got a mink. George, boom, puts the crosshairs right over the silhouette of Harry, but Harry moves into the light, and we see this very sympathetic, emotional
vulnerable
face on this. Yeah, it's you need to see it. It's what
it quote unquote humanizes Harry.
Yeah,
it makes him seem like more like a human than an animal.
Yeah, it is the pivotal point that sways John Lithgow from being a mindless hunter, for trophies, to being like, oh my God, this is a sentient being.
Well, and this is the time too when George is going up the ladder. He says something like, something about this animal in my house or whatever, and the son says, "But he's not an animal." And then he looks and sees that he's not an animal.
Right, but the kid obviously has now been very attached to Bigfoot being, boom, immediately on board with him. So yeah, I would be saying the same thing. Like if I had a Bigfoot destroying my parents' house and we're not on the hook financially for it, I once again, back in the day and today, still identify with that mentality of Ernie's. I would definitely, and plus, blowing a giant creature's brains out all over the inside of your house,
right.
Like questions are going to be asked of you by authorities.
Yeah.
Anyway, George does the slow walk down the ladder. Nancy's like, "George," and he's like, "I'm okay. I'm okay." Like, what?
He pulled a Keanu Reeves moment.
Yeah. He has this very, I don't know how you want to describe it, like a
spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has an awakening.
And now he wants to domesticate Bigfoot.
Yeah, but that's the thing. There's like no plan. Like he has this awakening and he's like, "Oh, I get it now." But still, it's in your fucking house, destroying it. Like just because you had a Zen moment doesn't mean Harry is not still a force to be reckoned with.
Then Harry comes out with the minks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and again, here comes a weird, like, since everybody is now all Zen moment, Harry jumps off the porch, pulls out a plant and starts digging a grave for the mink stole. And I think Sarah's like, "What is it doing?" She's the one who incites this. And Nance goes, "Well, he's burying Grandma's mink stole." And Harry gives this like, "What the fuck" type look up to the crowd, the family up there. And she gives this whole thing like, don't look at me like that. I didn't kill it. And then like, since everybody's now Zen, Ernie, Sarah, and George are now giving her the same look as if, yeah, did you kill it, Nancy?
Yeah. She's
How
like,
dare
I didn't
you kill something?
Yeah, Grandma didn't kill it. It was probably some ranchers that did it.
And the fucking irony of the situation is Ernie, hot off his first kill, number one. 2, George is still clutching a rifle that has killed umpteen dozen animals displayed in his fucking house.
Right.
And now they're all like, I don't know, Nancy. How could you even?
How dare you?
And meanwhile, yeah, fucking George is cocking his rifle to empty the clip. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, so tons of weird moments like that in this movie. So yeah, now the plan is like, now that Harry's outside, let's all run inside and plan over.
Let's all go to bed.
Yeah, so they get inside and shut and lock the door as if that's going to work against this beast. And so, but George sees all of his trophies now, puts 2 and 2 together that they are being buried because Harry comes in, grabs the deer off the wall, and heads outside. And now there's a hilarious slapstick scene of George running around, taking all the dead animals off his wall, all the mounted heads and the birds and the fish and blah, 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 and just cramming him into a closet like packing a phone booth 20 style. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Nancy, stall Harry. Which,
Stall the Bigfoot.
Yeah, and not for nothing, she does a great job with what she's given.
Yeah.
Let's be real. She plays like a game of tapping the glass panes.
Yeah.
She plays like, and does her job well because by the time that Harry is ready to blast through the door, she lets him in, obviously. Company.
Oh, and George was like, show him your pasta maker.
Yeah, show him the pasta maker. Yeah, so funny. So George gets on the phone with the cops.
Oh my God.
So here we go. It's like, we cut to the police station. Sergeant's putting on his coat like he's ready to go home for the night. And he answers the phone in such a strange way. Like he picks it up, he goes, downtown, Sergeant such and such speaking. And I'm like, that's how police answer the phone in the 80s? Like, is there no 911? But obviously this predates 911. It just goes straight to a sergeant's desk who goes, hello, essentially.
What do you want?
Like, what the fuck?
Why are you burdening me with your 911 call?
Seriously. So George is like, hey, check it out. I have got a Bigfoot running around my house. And he tries to explain, what happened. He's like, I hit it with my car and it's in the kitchen that's eating the plants and it's eating the fish. And he goes, okay, so let me get this straight, sir. You hit Bigfoot with your car in your kitchen.
And he's waving all the other people to come listen.
Yeah, and he's like getting everybody to pick up the lines. And it's a very funny scene.
Well, it's just weird, too, because it's like, are all these cops literally just sitting around at the police station that they have nothing
just
better to do?
Off. Yeah. It's like the classic squad room full of detectives that are all now like listening to John Lithgow talk about how there's a Bigfoot in his house. And
where is he right now?
Yeah, he's in the bathroom. So I don't know what makes George change his mind, because obviously the sergeant is kidding, because he's like, here's what I'm going to do, sir. I'm going to lock down your neighborhood, evacuate all your neighbors. We're going to roll in with a SWAT team and blah, blah, blah,
Make it a war zone.
Yeah. And he's like, are you prepared for that, sir? And I guess like, he's like, no, just kidding. Sorry. And hangs up.
He didn't want him to die.
I guess, but like, how was he in? Whatever. I don't know how I would act if an actual Bigfoot were running around my house, but I would like to think that my sarcasm meter would still be detecting at least a little bit.
Yeah.
But hey, it's the 80s, I guess. Whatever. So yeah, he hangs up. Boop. So now they just have like a fucking Bigfoot
just hanging out.
Yeah. So okay. So now what? And that's when the phone rings.
Mm-hmm. And it's miraculously daylight.
Yeah. Now it's bright as hell outside in the morning.
It is literally been pitch black this entire sequence. The phone rings and the sun goes doing.
And then it's high noon.
And they go, oh, fuck. It's okay, for a little context, their next door neighbor, Irene, is on the phone.
Who is literally the living embodiment of social media.
Right.
Yeah.
She is a complete, I don't know, she has this very East Coast attitude. She feels very New Yorker.
She's like Fran Drescher.
So yeah, she's like literally the next door neighbor. She was watching their dog. She's like, hey, I got your dog. I'm coming over literally right now. And literally, again, this is why I thought that Harry snuck out of the car in the 8 seconds that George was out of the house.
It's like she was walking out like she had the phone in her hand.
Yeah,
ringing
but then
the
it turns into vapor because she's not holding the phone.
Yeah, I know.
She's just
The
holding
dogs are at the door already, and like,
Why are there so many
second to-
dogs?
holding the mail. Okay, so she's holding the mail and holding their dog, little Bob, and there is a fuck ton of dogs running around, in a mob, and Irene. So we'll get to that in a second. So Irene is coming around, looking into the thing, and they're like, "Oh my god, hide Harry!" And they're like pulling down all the shutters and like da. And so Harry goes into the basement, breaks the stairs, and like, "Okay, we're all fine here." Blah blah blah. So she comes in, and they try to act casual, and they pull it off.
I'd like to point out in this scene something. Though.
Sure.
There was peanut butter in the refrigerator, and I don't know why I picked up on that, and I was just like, why is there peanut butter
People do that.
I said the
in
same
the
thing the first
refrigerator?
time.
I had friends growing up who did that, and I was like, you are fucking aliens.
But it was just like, and she's like, oh yeah, no, the peanut butter, it's on the second floor of the refrigerator, which
Second
is on the
shelf,
floor. It's exactly where it should be.
But that's way ahead.
Well, she's not even in the door yet.
She's not even in the door. So they're all doing this act casual routine, and like everybody's like sweaty and covered in dirt, and she's coming in. She's like, so it's like, okay, comedy moment. Irene opens the door. She's like, oh my god, what is that smell? And like they look behind them and they see the fridge that's been knocked over. Like, we decided to defrost the fridge. Little Bob's going crazy. So it's this hilarious little comedy sequence where they've got to act incredibly casual and get her the fuck out of there because Harry is like a giant toddler. He's about as stable as he can be for 3 minutes, and then he's haywire.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Boom. He reaches his peak. He's got to do some shenanigans. So he starts sticking his hand through the laundry chute from the basement. And like the mom's like, oh, it's Ernie's science project. It's a gerbil.
It's a gerbil.
Yeah, and he goes, oh, John Lithgow goes, oh, maybe it's a hamster, and whatever. So back and forth, and she's like throwing
It eats
shit.
a lot.
Yeah, whatever. So Irene, boom, out of the picture. We are now, God, it's so crazy. So they open the thing. Ernie, come on up here. And Harry is like, dude, I'm one of the family now. And he just lifts Ernie up. And then like he just pops his head up and he's like all smiley and shit. And, he gets up. So it's incredible. All of the nuances between Harry and George in this scene are incredible. And I can't break them down because like there's a bunch of head nods and Harry is doing things like giving half winks and shit. And it's awesome. You need to see it. I can't break it down. I can't do it justice.
Well, you think he's going to snap the dog's neck.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're like, okay, we think that he's basically down there for a while. And then he comes up, yada, yada. No one's going to work. No one's going to school because Ernie's going to blow it that they have a Bigfoot in the house.
Yeah. So everybody's like taking a snow day.
They meet the dog. The Nance kind of is like, okay, well, he's going to like break his face.
Yeah. Okay. So here, okay. So we are, this is probably the most anachronistic of them all. You brought it up already, PJ, the blood. So there's a thing with the dog, and now we're, blah, 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 there's some tension, and now we're all just petting the dog, and we realize, okay, humans have pets. Doy, I'm Harry, I get it now. So he's petting the dog, and Nancy sees a slight cut on his hand between his first and second knuckle, and she goes, oh, you're hurt. Bitch, he was just hit by a car. He just flew off of a car, and then he just trashed your fucking house.
He has a cut.
He's got a small cut on his hand. She's like, oh,
Yeah, he fell through
dear.
the stairs, then just smiled afterwards.
Yeah. He like jumped from your balcony, fell through the thing. It's like, what? Oh, unbelievable.
Get the first aid kit.
Yeah, it's like basically they're cartoons. Like, this is what you do in a cartoon. Like, you go, oh my God, you're hurt. And then no one ever sustains any injury ever again.
Yeah.
So, they put some iodine on it or whatever. And we're just like, yeah, I guess, now we're just settled in. Harry lives with us. He's totally cool now.
They're domesticating Bigfoot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Ernie rides him out of the room. And, at this point, there's still no plan. Because...
I don't think there's ever a plan.
Well, and that's part of it too. Is like Ernie rides Harry out like a horse, and then we just have finally a semi-quiet moment, and it's just like George being like, "All right, just let me think. I've got a Bigfoot. How do I work a plan around a Bigfoot? And what could you do? I don't." Obviously there's never any plan because what the fuck, like because Nancy immediately starts pulling for Bigfoot's amnesty, essentially, like let him free, like do not enslave this thing that might be a person, and everybody's
after she told her husband to take him out after he hit her.
Yeah, basically.
She's like, shoot him.
We're all over the place with like all of our moral compasses, but everybody's swinging right and left, but we all come together in the end.
The only person who's consistent is the daughter.
Yeah.
Well,
until she forgives him later on, but she's consistent in her hatred for him.
Right.
She has a completely consistent arc from start to finish. Well, and I guess Ernie does too.
Yeah, because he never had any negative feelings toward him.
Yeah, Ernie. I think Ernie and Sarah are both pretty legit because when we see that, whatever, we don't need to go through their arcs right now. So where are we in the timeline? We've got...
So he started, like, teaching...
Oh! Yeah, right. So they have to go refresh all the groceries. So Sarah and Nance go off and get the groceries, and that's when... This is when there is a plan. George has a plan. And this is it. He taught Harry how to sit, and like he's gonna, parlay that into money somehow. Because this is all the progress that he ever gets.
And I feel like it's been like a week, because they talk about how he can't be out of work for more than a week or 2 weeks or whatever.
It was just a day, but he's taught. But you have to keep in mind contextually, they just came back from a camping trip.
Oh, yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, you're right.
Like he came
so
back.
So it's like a Sunday.
Yeah. He came back, called in sick the next day. He can't keep doing that. So yeah, it's an incredible timeline and it happens incredibly quickly. So basically, maybe it's because he got shy in front of a crowd or whatever, or maybe George is lying, but George is feeding Harry sugar cubes and he's like, sit. But Harry just wants the sugar, and he goes, sit. So finally he builds it up a head of steam, and he goes, sit. And so he goes, boom, and just jumps onto the couch and just demolishes it. And, like a toddler, even though he's 8 foot tall and 450 pounds, just like gets totally enamored with the response that he gets from destroying their couch. So he's like jumping on tables and chairs and coffee tables and shit. And just like destroying this place. And so finally, George goes, don't sit. Classic, right? That doesn't work, obviously. I think this is one of the few times he crashes into the basement.
Probably.
Maybe.
There was so much destruction. I don't even remember what happened when.
No. That's the part where he sits on the lazy boy and starts watching the TV.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or he's like, look.
Because the lazy boy starts like slowly crushing inward as he's laughing hysterically at the TV.
Yeah.
And he's just laughing at a monkey throwing shit. So then he starts throwing shit.
This is where we get some resolve. So Nancy and George, they go, you know what? He's a person too. He's just like you and me. Let's take him back to the woods where he belongs. Like he shouldn't be on display or cut up in a lab and yada, yada, yada. And so that's when George goes, well, he might like it too much here. And that's when we cut back to Harry, who's watching like a Ronald Reagan movie with a chimp.
Yeah. And laughing his butt off.
Laughing hysterically, which all of a sudden he can just laugh obnoxiously loud like a human.
Yeah.
It's all of his communications have been sort of grunts and sort of yelling, but now he's just laughing. He's fucking loving it. And like, what's his name? Ernie is sitting on his knee. Yeah, they're like, well, okay, so now here's the plan. We're basically just gonna hide out in the house all day and hang out with Bigfoot, and then I'll just drive him back at night. What other plan can you have other than this? Because George goes to like a fast food place and buys like 40 of everything and entices Harry into the station wagon with some shenanigans and some fish sandwiches and a chocolate shake and 2 large fries and yada, yada, yada. And rightfully so, I felt as a child, Ernie has an emotional moment because he doesn't want to give up his Bigfoot. And I agree.
Right.
But, obviously he's destroying the house. He's got to get the fuck out. So George runs up to, Ernie runs off and George runs up to him and he's like, Ernie, this has got, he's a fucking Bigfoot. He's destroying the fucking house. He doesn't belong here. Yada, yada, yada. The whole like, you let to each their own. And Harry is watching from the driveway through the station wagon, hearing crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
And he has like, okay, so I don't know why this happens, but Harry just gets out of the car, runs into the night. Why? It's not like John was taking him, George. It's not like George is taking him out to shoot him behind the barn.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why in the movie, in this universe, there's no justification for Harry running off into the night.
Maybe he was he was afraid of the car, I think, because the car had hit him.
Well, no, he'd gotten over that by the time he was eating the fish sandwiches. It's just like we need to have a schism, and it's like so flimsy of justification. We're like, maybe, we're supposed to believe that Harry misread the interaction between Ernie and George somehow. I don't fucking know. But
he's like a toddler, like you said, and just was afraid to go back to wherever and did that whole, I'm going to run away kind of like. But then you're running away into unknown land, so who knows?
That's the thing. He just runs off when you think you want to go home. And this place is super confusing.
Yeah.
But whatever. So that's basically the huge the second of the 3 chunks of this movie is the part where Harry is on the lam. And by necessity, because we need him to be pursued by Jacques. So what happens is like there's a whole bunch of awesome scenes where basically Harry fucking around in Seattle.
Yeah.
We get to watch him view a woman cooking a chicken that parallels almost perfectly a man slipping his wife into a hot tub. And we get to see Harry be completely befuddled by it all.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
What a wonderful bit. And then so a bunch of that stuff, and he looks at traffic and he feels wistful. And I keep thinking there's something here, but I'm like, what? Because you left of your own accord, Harry, and what the fuck, and yada, yada, yada. I feel like if they could have gotten away with it, he would have been glancing down at a wallet-sized picture of Ernie.
Yeah.
It just feels like he misses the thing he ran away from, but he's running away from the 2 things he wants to get back to. 1 is home, possibly. 2 is Ernie, but he's like, fuck it. I'm going to go walk the freeway. What? Harry, what's happening?
Well, I wonder if he gets scared and runs away, when he hears them talking, but then he doesn't know how to get back.
It doesn't matter. But now we got to set up. So we've got Don Amici as an old dude working at a Bigfoot museum and selling souvenirs, who is essentially best frenemies with Jacques.
Well, he gives him business because he's crazy. Brings him shit.
I mean, I guess kind of. So we have this interaction between them where Don Amici is this jaded ex-Bigfoot dude. he and Jacques were both Bigfoot enthusiasts. They totally believed, like, Don Amici is like this professor, or he has a doctorate in anthropology.
Yeah, he's a doctor, yeah.
And Jacques is just a crazy ass hunter, and somehow they fell in love over Bigfoot.
They're both of their thrill of the chase.
Yeah, I think, but that's the thing too. Like, if you were going to be Don Amici's character, he would want to study a living Bigfoot. I don't know why he would team up with Jacques, a man hell-bent on blowing the brains out of Harry all over as much of the forest as possible. But whatever, it makes strange bedfellows. So Jacques is telling Dr. Wallace all about this thing that he knows for real is out there, because he found the hair, he found the license plate, he's put two and two together. He's like, I think it was hit by a car, but he's not telling him that he suspects that they ran off with Harry. So the French accent, I feel like, really blows his cover, but whatever. He shows up at George and company's house while George is like, I don't know.
I think he was at work.
Oh yeah, he goes to work. And Jacques shows up with their license plate. And he's like, oh, hello, I am from the Forestry Service. I found a license plate and I was following up. Like, the guy under the guise of following up on roadkill, essentially.
An accident.
Yeah. He's like, we want to, like, and that was half of it. He's like, we wanted to make sure you're okay, and we wanted to make sure that if the animal was still out there and suffering, we want to find it and kill it, essentially, is what he's getting at.
Yeah. And at that point, if that was true, like, how the hell would they know where an injured animal went?
But yeah, like, imagine having somebody coming, like, being a forestry ranger. Imagine you, PJ, driving down the road, you hit a deer, and maybe you don't kill it, or maybe it flies off into the woods, you never see it, and like, whoa! And then cut to literally the next day, and a French dude is at your door being like, did you hit a deer? I want to go kill it. What? Huh? And then to give the name of, like, what is he? Something Smith.
Ron Smith or something like that. It was something so
With
stupid.
his heavy accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is something Smith. Whatever. So it's fucking crazy. So all of this Bigfoot hysteria is brewing, right? The media is getting a hold of it. There are sightings.
Oh, we missed the part where George goes to Don Amici's character. He drives all the way out there.
Well, that's in the midst of all this. It's all building, right?
Well, that's the only way he goes there, yeah.
Well, but yeah, he has to go to the library first. He goes to the library. He does that whole comedy bit where he talks to that lady with the fucking crazy 80s hair, like popping her gum with her Lee press-on nails at the library. I need books on Bigfoot. She goes, Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, like hilarious but throwaway scene. He brings a bunch of books, and that's how we meet Don Amici. He's introduced by those books to Don Amici's character. He's like, oh, all these books make Bigfoot seem like a bad guy, except for this guy, which happens to be right at the road. Isn't that weird? So that sets up the meeting between him and Don Amici's character.
Yeah, he's looking for a doctor, and the guy, he disguises himself as not the guy. He gives him a note.
It's fucking like, what? John Lithgow feels like an idiot in this scene.
Yeah.
Because he gets the address of the dude who wrote the book, and he shows up to a museum that is not only a Bigfoot souvenir shop and whatever, it's like a quote-unquote museum of anthropology. And the only name on this building is the dude who he came to see. He walks in. There's one dude in the fucking place. He is an old dude, presumably, professorial air about him. And George goes, I'm looking for Dr. Wallace. And he goes, why? He's not here. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just work here. Of course, if you were a doctor running a museum, you would leave just another 85-year-old in the place.
Why not?
But this is that classic scene where George is picking his brain and like pitching him scenarios about Bigfoot, but Don Amici's character is jaded, and he says, I don't believe in Bigfoot, and if you want to talk shop, you got to shop. Hilarious. Because we cut to him pushing his way out the door with the fucking Bigfoot lamp, which might put you in mind, again, mentioned earlier, A Christmas Story.
Mm-hmm.
The leg lamp.
Yeah.
And he buys a couple of casts and like a fucking t-shirts and stuff. And oh my God. So yeah, moral of the story is he says, give him this note. And it's this like the most convoluted note you'd ever leave to anyone ever, right? Yeah. He says, if you happen to run into the doctor, give him this note. So Don Amici looks at the note and he goes, it's so fucking stilted. I can't remember it, but it's like, hello, my name is George. I have some information about our interesting big friend. Please contact me if you will at your earliest convenience. George Henderson. Or so,
it's like a voicemail written down.
Yeah, it was like written by a fucking robot. And then they call back to it later. Like it's supposed to be meaningful, like whatever. Moral of the story is there's now going to be some interplay between George and his dad, played by Emmett Walsh.
Mm-hmm.
So, but also now we get a little clash, or not a clash, but an interaction between George and Jacques. So Jacques comes into George's dad's store and they sell guns and ammo and all that kind of shit. Basically a sporting goods store. So Jacques comes in, he needs this huge bullet. He's like, I need this something bullet. And he goes, whoa, you going big game hunting or yada, yada, yada. So he hands her the thing. And he goes, do you have any more? And it was weird, even as a kid. George is like, well, there's 20 of them in that box, And he's like, do you have any more? And he goes, No. What the fuck? Anyway, whatever. There's a weird interchange, and unbelievably, I don't understand, in this small community, George never having interacted before with Jacques.
Yeah, or at least never having any idea who he was, period.
Yeah.
Especially as a hunter.
Yeah.
Right, because here's the mind blower of this. Because when he leaves, he's like, oh, that was standoffish. He goes up to his dad. Now, keep in mind, in the frame, there's a giant bear, a mounted bear behind the dad. It's important. George walks up and he goes, oh, that guy was weird. And he's like, oh, that's old Jacques. So his dad is intimately familiar with this man, not only by name, but he's got an entire backstory he fucking gives George.
Yeah.
How do you, the dad, owner of the place your son work at right now, you are standing in? Then they double down. George doesn't know. Here's the fucking double down part. He goes, oh, that's the guy who bagged Claus here, pointing at the bear that is a fucking staple fixture of the store you fucking work at, George.
That he's probably worked at most of his life,
Yeah.
if not all of it.
Are you unfamiliar with the backstory of the place you work?
He probably watched it get brought in when it happened.
Yeah. So we go, okay, so we tie that in. He doubles down. He goes, yeah, he's the hunter who shot old Claus here. And this is like, whatever, a fucking 15-foot bear. It's humongous. And George is like, whoa, why would he ever give up a trophy that big? And it's kind of cool, actually, because George's dad goes, well, probably because it was the smallest one.
Mm-hmm.
So building some credibility in Jacques as like a master hunter.
Yeah.
Like he had to make room in his collection area. So he gave up the smallest of his bears, which was only 15 feet tall.
That's all. There's just the baby.
So it's wild. We get a little throwaway sort of character building about George being an artist because his dad is like, I need a picture of Bigfoot. We're coming to Bigfoot headquarters and draw me a Bigfoot, George. It's kind of a nostalgic callback to when if you were anything but a regular guy, you were a sissy.
Yeah.
Very 50s mentality.
Are you still into that art stuff?
That art shit, not a gun, a paintbrush. What a queer. Essentially, like that's the attitude of these old movies, and it's preserved perfectly intact here. He's like, you got them, fairy paintbrushes and everything, George. Essentially, and he goes, yeah. And he's like, draw me a big old Bigfoot that's all mean and shit. And George is having a conflict of conscience where he's like, but I know the real Bigfoot. He's not a mean guy. And I'm like, okay, so he's trying to, I get it. Like, having this awakening regarding Bigfoot, you don't want to sort of perpetrate the myth, but you're a dude among a sea of hillbillies all howling for Bigfoot's blood at this point. The newspapers, the news media on TV, like at one point, the news people are all crowded around this bicyclist, right? And while George is out looking for Harry, he just stumbles upon this scene where this bicyclist is classic 80s dad mustache.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, oh, it was like a ape with rabies, but twice as big. Like, whoa. And it was big, and it was scary, it was blah, blah, blah. And so George is like, yeah, right. Like, he's nudging people, being like, you believe this shit? Until finally he's like, he gets fed up. He's like, this is bullshit. He's like, I know Bigfoot personally, essentially says. He's like, what I bet happened is you got scared. You scared him. You fell off your bike and you skinned your knee. And he goes, isn't it? Isn't it? And it's this hilarious where the guy goes, yes. And he like breaks down. And like then the news media like close in on George. And he's George Hen. And he runs off.
George Hen.
George Hen. Which plays in nicely later because when like that night, George is like running through Harry is running through the city. And this is something you'll probably never see again, but like shop windows just full of different TVs for sale.
Yeah.
And all of them had like crystal clear quality. It was amazing. Somehow in 1987, they had the technology to, this is how it worked. Whatever TV you were looking at, that's what the TV you heard. 40 TVs, a wall of TVs, all cranked up volume wise. Somehow, if you looked at one, that's the only one you heard. Brilliant. But this is the part where that interview pays off. Where Harry breaks in, he's like licking the TVs because he misses George. He ran away and now he's regretting it. He doesn't want to go back home necessarily. He wants to see George and the fam because they had a pretty good 24 hours, probably less, conscious together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we have a very dark and gritty, like, again, there's gunplay. People are running through the streets at night, dressing as Rambo.
Fully armed.
Fully armed. Dudes running around with shotguns, like banging on the tops of trucks, giving the old Winn-Dixie and jumping over shit. Like, over Bigfoot.
Straight up vigilanteism.
Yeah, it would have been funny if, because like there were all the cops involved too. Didn't want anybody in or out of the area because of the thing. It would have been so funny if like that sergeant or whatever was like, oh shit, that guy was right. George, when he called saying that there was a Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, there would
like
have been
a
a nice
callback would have
payoff,
been nice.
But yeah, that's just it. It's just like we're going off of almost no evidence except for people's sightings.
Yeah.
So nothing has changed as far as the field of cryptozoology. No one's caught it on film. Mm-hmm. No one has gotten a hair or a footprint. They're just like, we keep seeing things.
Yeah.
Like, not that it could be just a very tall prowler. They don't know.
Well, they saw there was one footprint at the time where the bicyclist was because they were measuring it because he was like, Harry?
But that was, yeah, that was the thing. But that was the first one.
Yeah, and it was just one. It looked like they were measuring one.
Yeah. What are the odds, though, that Harry would be making a cast of Harry's foot?
Right.
Sorry, I thought you were someone else. That is a funny scene, though, because George just, like, ducks under all the police tape, like, walking around, like, just running through the CSI shit, like... Guys out like doing a notepad while they're taking clues and shit, and George is just like, "Oh, excuse me."
Well, he asked the cop, "Hey, what's going on?" The guy, or he says something, and the cop is like, "I'm trying to take a statement."
What's going on here? Trying to take a statement.
He's civilian. Like, what the hell are you doing here?
So now we've got Jacques running around the city. A lot of things are in play. We have Harry, we have Jacques, and we have George running around basically downtown Seattle at night. All trying to find each other, one seeking murder, the other seeking friendship.
Yep.
Who will win, right? So it's shenanigans happen, and they end up in, this is a nice callback to the Ninja Turtles being one of my favorite movies, because a garbage truck features heavily.
Yeah,
It does.
More stinky things. Just here come the stinky things.
Yeah, and it's so crazy. So George and Jacques end up in a lifted garbage can on a garbage truck. And, since it's the 80s also, it's not afraid to get a little dark.
Yeah.
Because, there's, I don't know. It goes both ways, because we've got Jacques being very aggressive and flashing a lot of really big guns in very threatening manners. But then you also have Harry, who at any moment you feel could snap because Jacques, is evil.
Well, he pulled him into
reads
that garbage truck like real rough. Like he was going to just snap his neck.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. Harry might be capable of murder until he makes Jacques cry.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's see.
Well, and then there's a point where Harry's like pointing a gun at his own face because he's looking at it, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Not that anything would have happened because, like you said, it's PG.
Yeah,
but still,
it walks that super dark line where Harry is essentially holding a gun up to his head, and Jacques is just reaching out to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And so for a split second, because it is, again, 1987, you think that it'll just be like driving along and you'll see George behind the wheel of the garbage truck. You hear a bang and he hits the brakes. He goes, Harry! And then credits scroll.
right.
Like,
At
the 80s
end.
were not above fucking you up.
Right.
So you could buy it. But, they escape and they get, hugs. Oh boy, great. We get back.
Jacques gets put in jail because he was
Yeah.
the one that was caught in the garbage truck.
Yeah. For some reason, the police are like, that garbage truck is suspicious. And they arrest Jacques.
Who wasn't even in the driver's seat of the garbage truck. He was in the
No,
garbage.
But, right. But that's the thing. When in a time when they're running around with guns in hand,
Right.
and he is in a dumpster holding a gun. Yeah, he's off to jail. It's weird. And so, Harry comes home with George, and they go, that's close. And it's so bizarre. He's like, walks Harry into his and his wife's bedroom, and he's like tapping his wife on the shoulder. She's fast asleep. He goes, Nan, wake up. Like it's fucking Christmas morning again. And he's like, click. And she goes, George, what is it? And so, he steps into view, and it's not, again, elusive smell. It's not until she can see George that she can smell George.
Harry.
Harry. Maybe also George. He was in the
That's
dumpster and
true.
there's garbage.
They all probably
They
smell.
probably stink. But that's the thing. He's like, oh, wake up, honey. And it's not until, what? I can't. Oh, my eyes focus. Is that George? And whoa, smell. What? Like, I don't, be consistent. Whatever. Everybody walks in, and the sister's like, no, I thought it was you. I can smell you from down the hall. Oh, teach that to your fucking mom, right?
Right.
The hell? This is when they do the bath, right?
The bath?
When they bathe him. When they decide they have to keep him.
Probably.
I don't remember what happened right there.
I'm pretty sure this is the part where, he stinks and there's a big family reunion. They're hugging and they're like, well, first things first.
I think it might have been that they gave him the bath because of the he stunk, like
Yeah.
even worse
And
than
he had garbage
previously.
all over
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. He came back from the garbage excursion. So we got boom, time to give Harry a bath. And, pretty smart workaround because Irene next door has a pool.
Mm-hmm.
So, and without actually showing it or getting the costume wet, and brilliant filmmaking. We cut to the pool next door. The water is fucking cloudy and brown, and it looks like it's a diarrhea slip and slide. And this pool guy is pulling out 15, 20 pounds of hair from this pool with his skimmer, right? And so Irene's there like completely dumbfounded. And the pool guy, this is hilarious. He goes, do you want a cat? And she goes, no. And he's like, oh, good. Then it's just a hairball.
And this is the second time they've had to pull shit out of their out of her pool because the first time Harry threw the bumper of the
yeah.
car into the pool, he launched that shit across 2 yards.
Yeah, Irene is a pain in the ass, but I think, I would love to have a neighbor like her who is that stupid. Like if a bumper, like 'cause there's no fence between their yards. There's like a 2-foot wall. And if a bumper and then my pool somehow became the Black Lagoon, I would definitely look in one direction. But she's like, nah, it's just a weird set of coincidences. I don't know.
That's fine.
Fucking
I got
crazy.
a pool guy.
Yeah, so they're watching Adam's Family and they do a nice little bath and drying his hair, and it's I feel like there's some sort of irony happening because they all like look at each other and shrug. But it doesn't make any sense.
Because they're trying they name all the people in the Addams Family song and they're talking like the cousin and he's all hairy and then
but it's like sort of the backstory we get in regards to George's drawing. It makes no fucking difference, but it just fills screen time and they go, man, it's a living, do that sort of feel.
We're like the Addams Family now.
Yeah. They just sort of like give up on being what they were, and now they are just a family that lives with a Bigfoot.
Nobody has a job anymore.
Yeah. Because George quits. He's like, fuck it. I hate this place, Dad. This place sucks.
I don't know anything about it anyway.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Oh, my God. So
during this time, Jack's trying to get out of He's trying to get out of jail.
Yeah, and he's calling his lawyer, and there's a bunch of hilarious shit happening. And but this is also when, oh, God. So the callback to the note. George gets a phone call. He's like, hey, I am Dr. Wallace Wrightwood. And he's like, oh my God, I've read all your books. And he's like, I read that super awkward note you left me.
Does this ring a bell?
Thanks for making it super awkward and making me say this. So he's like, oh, come over for dinner. So he shows up. He opens the door. Oh, it is you. Aha, it's Amici. And he's like, yeah, I brought flowers. What? Why? It's weird.
You want to apologize for being a dick?
You said that during the screening, and I don't believe it. Because, like, if you pull the wool over John Lithgow's eyes, you come, she invites you to dinner, flowers?
Well, and in the 80s, I mean, people probably still do it now, but people would bring flowers for the woman of the house to put in a vase on the table. And
maybe it just felt weird. But yeah, so he shows up.
This dinner scene is my favorite scene of the movie altogether.
How did you find this believability wise, PJ?
It's like I don't believe it. I just don't.
It's well, so,
the dialogue was my favorite. Just like the Sarah asks, "Oh, where's the roast?" and the mom's like, "Oh, it's it has a resting place in the garden."
It's a lot of payoffs in this little thing. Like Don Amici's character shows up. He's like, something smells, and he's like, good. And you think, oh no, it's gonna be stinky, but no, it's good. So that pays off. And then they sit down to dinner, and he's like, oh, where's the roast? Do we all smell the roast? And Nancy is like, it's resting in a shallow, unmarked grave in the backyard. So Harry buried it, and that's kind of funny. And God bless Don Amici for doing this, but he's like coming to preach his case where he's like, don't throw your life away to Bigfoot is essentially his thesis statement. He's like, 50 years ago, I thought I saw Bigfoot, and now I'm an old man running a Bigfoot museum. He's like, don't do it. My youth, essentially. Meanwhile, Harry is just walking around in the background, like, eating a plant. And, like,
silent as a mouse.
Fucking off. Like,
hit ninja status again.
Yeah. And like you by the time he's literally in Don Amici's peripheral vision, it's like, can't you tell when somebody is there? Like, you have that feeling.
Not only that, but here is the ninja status. If you notice this, one of the times when Harry is walking in the background, he picks up one of the pot plants again, starts eating it, and he looks and sees what's going on and drops the plant. You don't hear anything impact anywhere, do you?
No. It's like a feather.
He made it disappear. He was just like, whew.
He's a magician.
It was Bigfoot magic.
Yeah.
Or maybe there was like a little puff of smoke and it appeared outside somewhere. I don't know what ninjas do. But this reveal is pretty, I don't know how to describe it. It feels like a wholesome family. Like if you were to say, where's the heart of this movie? Here it is.
Mm-hmm.
When Don Amici's character is like at his crescendo on his soapbox being like, don't believe in Bigfoot. There's no such thing as the Yeti. There's no abominable snowman. There's no big feet, period. And they're all like, this is so funny because literally there's a Bigfoot right behind you. And he goes, what's going on? His reaction to meeting Harry is so genuine and wholesome and childlike. Like how do you feel about that, PJ?
I mean, it's one of the best probably reactions in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like it's crazy because his character's barely in the movie,
right?
But that scene brings so much joy to him, and like he literally shows it in his face, his mannerisms, everything, like just complete and utter joy as to what he has just seen.
Yeah, up until now, aside from John Lithgow, everybody has been giving a journeyman performance, right? Like John Lithgow will give you some wow moments. But, Emmett Walsh is turning in his okay performance. The family, everybody. Jacques is chewing the scenery, but he's not there very much. So our core are these characters, like that triad, Jacques, Don Amici's character, and John Lithgow. And this scene, like, really opens up his everything, and then like you almost forgive the fact that he's gotten no screen time up until then.
Yeah.
Because he's immediately fleshed out.
He's been on the screen for maybe 3 or 4 minutes at that point.
Right.
Yeah. And now he never leaves.
Yeah. And Jacques been on probably 10 times that.
Yeah.
But in that moment, he becomes like a part of the family. Like as he slides into the Hendersons family, like in record time. Like Harry is a Sasquatch and it took him less than 8 hours to become like a Henderson. And Don Amici is like, bink. Oh, hey, it's me now.
Well, I feel like part of it's like, okay, now you can never leave because you cannot tell our secret. Like,
well, no, like he was so, that's part of it too, is like, since it's a kid's movie, everything is on the up and up. Like everybody, there's never any real danger.
Yeah.
Like you never feel like Jacques is ever going to get the upper hand or like the hillbillies running around the town are going to do anything. So there's always that sort of safe, yada, yada, yada. So all of our good characters are always instantly good and all of our bad characters are bad. And like, the worst kind of wholesome bad, dark.
Yeah.
But until the end, they say, hey, we obviously cannot keep an 8-foot tall ape in Seattle. We've got to get him back up north or out west or whatever. And Don Amici's like, I am in to the tune of the rest of my life, essentially. So they go, okay, we got a plan. We'll take him back tomorrow. So this is like, what, day 3?
I don't know. At this point, I have no idea what the timeline is. Sure, we'll say 3 days.
I feel like when they got him, there was the day that George took off work, the day that George went back to work, the next day George quit. So this must be the next day after. So we're like on day 4.
Yeah, we're on a Thursday.
Well, whatever. So like, they're like, okay, so tomorrow it's like they're planning a trip to Disneyland. Essentially, they say, we'll wake up early, we'll have breakfast, we'll make a whole day of it. Then we'll run up to the forest and drop George off and we'll meet him, blah, blah, blah. So Don Amici gets up, boom, leaves, and they go, oh, it's so strange. I don't even know when he's going to be back. And then boom, he like sets up a sleeping bag next to where Harry is making a little pine needle and branch bed. And so I get family movie and everything and yada, yada, yada. But we're like, okay, we're going to bed. Good night, everybody. When we cut to that bed, you think, okay, it's Don Amici is going to be sleeping next to Harry. Like, this is a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I get it. He's a Bigfoot crazy dude who just wants to be like, yeah, hey, buddy, I'll be the little spoon. In the morning, like, Ernie is in the middle of that sandwich.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Like, there was no setup because it's like after dinner, the kids just
They were gone.
disappear.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the next morning and Ernie's just like, blah, like sprawled out between Harry and And another weird thing, Don Amici's hand.
And that's it.
The rest of him is under a sleeping bag. He's just like I feel bad for him is what I'm getting at, because he had this once in a lifetime opportunity to sleep next to Bigfoot. And I'm sure Ernie snuck down in the middle of the night and like wheeled his way in there. And so now Don Amici, this poor 85-year-old man, cramped in a sleeping bag with his arm sticking out the top.
That's why I didn't realize he was in there still, because I didn't notice the arm. I just thought
There's one adult arm.
Ernie was
go,
by
"What?"
himself there.
Ugh. Anyway, so yeah.
Oh, they're all up, and then Jacques gets out of jail, and then he goes to the house, and he's sneaking around. All of Irene's roses are completely destroyed.
Oh, hold on. They burn a lot of screen time on Jacques in jail.
Yeah, it's stupid.
It deserves a special mention, because when you watch it, you keep coming back to being like, all right, here's like 1, 2, 3 scenes, all of them in the same jail, all of them with Jacques on the same phone saying the same shit to not even a voice.
Nope.
They don't even pipe in something in ADR. It's just him being angry on a phone.
Yeah, I think I think it could have been just one time on the phone, one time getting out. It didn't need to have,
Right. And that's the thing. Like, we get Harry either getting hit by the car or flying off the car, happens twice. We go back to Jacques in the phone 3 times. Not funny, though.
No.
It's just annoying. Like, there's no joke there. So the next day, they all pile into old dude's car and run up to the woods. They have traffic entanglements and it's like all tense. So they get up there, and it's like it's a million times you've seen this, but they've got to release the animal that they've come to love back into the woods, and it's very heartfelt and yada yada. They try to break that bond where he goes, go, go, go. You dumb animal, you have to leave. Don't you understand? It's for your own good.
It reminded me of the American Dad episode.
Yeah. It's been pastiche a million times.
Mm-hmm.
But, and that's where you think it's going to end. But Ernie points out, Ernie, that dick, he goes, oh, good news. We can always come back and visit him because his footprints are in the snow. Which, okay, yes, but in the reality of the situation, why don't they ever track Bigfoot like that in reality?
Right.
Uh-oh. Moral of the story is plot-breaking device. So, since Don Amici sells plaster casts of Bigfoot feet, he just happens to have a shit ton of them. So they strap them all to their feet and they run around in the snow to throw Jacques off the scent, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of works, but Harry, for some reason, like reveals himself to Jacques
because he got close to George.
Runs away. Right, but like he should know by now he's after him, not George. He didn't care about George, but whatever. He's an animal. I'll give him a pass.
Mm-hmm.
They're running around the forest. Jacques and Harry square off, and Jacques knees Harry in the nards.
Yeah. It's totally
Like,
random, kind of.
Yeah, Wolfman's got nards situation happening right here. Knees him in the nards, and he does that that hilarious thing where he gets angry and then he goes, oh. And I believe it. I've been hitting the nards too. I've done that exact move. So, there again, we get sort of a repeat of the Seattle chase with more moving pieces because the whole family's involved. And the crescendo comes when, Harry and Jacques are, I think he's going to pull whatever. Harry catches Jacques.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially he's just hanging out with him on top of the car back where they parked. And, George is going to straight up murder Jacques.
Yeah.
And Harry stops him and he pets him like a little puppy. And, that's enough to switch him.
Yeah, they're like, meet Harry.
Just a little bit of compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jacques has been looking to kill these creatures for 50 years. One, strokes his bald head and he's like, you know what? I'm cool.
This is fine.
I'm ready to change my whole life strategy in my 60th year on this earth, giving up Bigfoot. So we have now the real, where we can stretch our legs and take our time sort of goodbye, where you don't have to punch him and you're not in a hurry and you have to pretend like you're angry.
Right.
So they're all hugging and taking pictures and shit. And we're cutting back to, because now no longer frenemies, Jacques and Dr. Wallace. They're like, what are we gonna do now? And Jacques like, there's always Loch Ness. So they go, classic 80s ending. And Harry says, okay.
Yeah.
He says, he's like, take care of yourself, Harry. And Harry goes, okay. And like, yeah.
Jacques was like, they have a language?
Bonjour. They have a language? I've said that a million times. But yeah, weird. And
Yeah.
then they just,
That's it.
all right, bye. And so he runs off into the woods.
So then Harry walks away.
And you think, well, is this, was he one of a kind? Because, there's no other footprints. They had to fabricate more footprints to hide Harry's. But, like, fucking tons of them.
Yeah, I think two or three
Three
adult
adults
ones
and a
a
kid.
baby or a kid. Yeah, just walk out from like camouflage and follow Harry into the forest.
Just like wild shit. And like this. So yeah, happy ending. Harry goes back and you say, oh, well, there's his family. And you kind of feel, that's the thing. When you don't like the family of your favorite character. So I always felt resentment for those other big feet, because if I were Ernie, I'd be like, fuck your other family, man. Live with us.
It would have been nice if at the end Ernie was like, can we come camping here next year? Like something like.
No, but then you'd be fucking with the species, and then eventually
That'd be like a sequel kind of
they'd
thing.
be interbreeding, and they'd get fat because they'd be bringing him like microwave pizzas and shit.
Oh, I guess.
They'd ruin the ecosystem. You have to like, leave only footprints and take only memories.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they say. Oh boy. See, everything works out. Like all the darkness goes away. Jacques is now a good guy. He's going to hang out with I feel like in a different, like if this movie were made today.
It wouldn't work because of social media. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could still, there's plausible deniability because up in the Pacific Northwest, in all those trees, very few cell phone towers. So I would buy people not having their phone on the ready because there is no yada, yada, yada. Whatever. I just feel like if you were to make it today, there'd be no guns. They take out all the swearing. And in the end, Jacques and Dr. Wrightwood would be like gay lovers, and they'd be like, oh, and they'd finally get married after all this animosity. Like, they were fighting the whole time, but they really loved each other.
That's true.
I think that'd be a cute ending where Don Amici and Jacques like hold hands and like go, oh. Personal opinion.
Or they could make it not PG and keep all the guns and stuff in it, which is probably what they would also do.
Yeah,
but
but
you could do it two ways.
But you would there's no way. No. It would have to be like, it would be like the new RoboCop. It would suck.
Yeah, doesn't mean they couldn't do it.
No, I know, but it would just suck and I wouldn't watch it. So, PJ, how did you find this movie? Did you enjoy it? Was it, what was it like for you?
I mean, it's different watching it now that I'm older, because I was also looking for things that I wouldn't have noticed when I was younger. So I was looking for things going on in the background and just mannerisms with people and stuff like that. So I was looking at it through a different scope. It's definitely an old movie. I'm like, just like the newer generation watching a movie like that is not gonna, they're not gonna look at it the same as we did.
It's very slow, right?
It's slow. It's long. It's very long.
It's slow and long, and there's a huge, huge section where Harry is not interacting with the Hendersons that feels like too long.
They could have chopped off probably like 20-25 minutes of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does make a lot of missteps, like a lot of the gags that repeat, or non-gags that repeat, a lot of stuff that just needs to be trimmed. I agree with you, but as it is, we're never going to get anything like it. So due to its uniqueness, I would say, if you're listening to this and at all interested and haven't seen it, if you saw it as a child, it's worth the revisit. If you haven't seen it to date, it is worth seeing.
Yeah, I came in not ever seeing it as a child, so I didn't know what to expect. And I mean, I don't notice a lot of like technical things with movies, so to me it was just entertainment, and I overall liked it aside from some things that didn't need to happen.
It's worth watching for sure.
if nothing else, it's got good comedy for two reasons. The intentional comedy that is, timeless, and the comedy that is related to the shit that is aged like milk.
Yeah.
Like, so you get to see that both ways. Because I remember watching this shit in the 80s and being like, yeah, this is completely acceptable. Like, everything I get, I buy 100%. Now I'm like, oh, I don't know. This is...
I don't know about that.
Yeah, so it's worth it. I say watch it. So thank you guys for listening. PJ, thanks for watching it.
Of course.
It was super fun to relive. Now, you did watch this as a child, right?
Yeah, I owned it on VHS. I watched it a ton of times when I was younger.
Okay, just making sure, because I talk about this with so many people, I forget who and what and where.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched it a dozen times at least.
It's great stuff. So if you get a chance, find it, watch it. It's great. I think it's getting out of this review universe with a recommendation. So guys, thank you for listening. PJ, thank you for coming on the show. This has been a blast, and I hope
Thanks for having me.
we've gotten to, it'd be funny to do, go back and see this again in 10 years and see if it's completely like, if we've progressed far enough in our culture where it's like now, like on the same par as like blackface, where we go, oh my God, how dare they? Oh, what cavemen? It'd be funny. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on another episode of the Review Universe.
For the try to
Fistful of Podcasts Radio.